Well, good evening and welcome to a special Island Stack Sports Talk. I'm joined by the president of Bermuda Boxing Federation, Mr. Nathan Dill. First of all, can you hear me, Can you hear me, Nathan? You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Well, first of all, obviously, with all the bad news about COVID, we've got good news for boxing.
Yes.
Just yesterday, the Bermuda Boxing Federation, as well as some others in the Caribbean, were cleared of wrongdoings.
Any wrongdoing. That's
Yes.
correct.
We spoke some time ago when this was all materializing, and you did say to me, stay tuned because you guys were working together to collaborate on one appeal, not separate appeals, one appeal to clear all of you's name, and that has actually happened.
Yes.
Can you give us a little more detail as to what transpired in order for you guys to be all cleared just prior to tomorrow's elections?
Okay, so thanks, Errol. And again, I'm always glad that you have your ear to the street and you know what's going on. So on our end, for Bermuda Boxing Federation, myself personally, we knew that we would be vindicated. There was no wrongdoing on our part. It was to me very clear that we were caught up in a political cyclone, and we were just the unfortunate victims of a targeted political attack in order to not allow the strength of the Caribbean boxing region to show. So it happened a bit strangely. First, so the 9 countries, band together and we launched an appeal. It was led by what we call is the Caribbean Steering Committee for Boxing. So we basically used that as a confederation to unify our voice. One of the federations, Layla Jackson from Cayman Islands, is a lawyer. And so she gave some sound legal advice. Now, she was not one of the people caught up in this. So
Right.
she was just doing this, based on the unity of the Caribbean. So we did ultimately consult a lawyer, and that was led by the U.S. Virgin Island, a gentleman by the name of Jose Rosario. He really took the fight, and the other brother that was involved in that was David Christopher of St. Lucia. So these three, St. Lucia, Cayman Islands, and U.S. Virgin Islands, got legal representation on our behalf. So I was midway into typing out my response, and then they sent over this email, and it was a 16-page document, and I was like, I'm gonna go with that one. So I read through it. Fortunately for Bermuda Boxing, we also have legal minds on our team. Both Jennifer Woods, our treasurer, is a practicing lawyer, and Melissa Luby, our program manager, has legal training as well. So they looked it over and said, yeah, that's fine. I looked it over and I basically guided them and said, hey, I'm in agreement with this. This statement is, in the essence, taking out the legalese talk. It's essentially what happened.
Mhm.
And so I signed off on it, sent it through. Now, that came back to be sort of a challenge because the one country who did not, and I'm not going to name the country, but the one country that did not decide to take the unified approach, they got cleared first
First, yes,
with
they were cleared on Monday.
without any. And so I'm back here scratching my head saying, okay, this is going to be a fight. This is going to be a fight. I found it incredible that they cleared that country first. And it caused a lot of anxiety on our end because it's like, this is the only person that didn't follow the line that the rest of us. Were
Mhm.
we better off doing that? But ultimately I was still confident. I said, okay, I'm prepared to fight. And the others I was halfway, but the others were like, no, we're gonna fight this to the end.
Hmm.
I was like, I'm in support, but I'm kind of feeling a little anxiety right
Right,
now.
right.
But ultimately, as you saw, so we had requested in that appeal a disciplinary hearing. We said, AIBA, by your own rulings, this needs to happen, and it did not happen. So, fortunately, we were able to get a disciplinary hearing by Zoom. It was led by a Francis Stridham of, I believe, Canada, and I found it to be very fair. And ultimately, yes, we were found days later with a little bit of anxiety. We were found cleared of any wrongdoing.
With this result and obviously the findings, does this now permit you and the other countries who were banned from voting? Does this permit you to vote in tomorrow's election?
Yes. So the election starts at, or the Congress, AIBA Congress starts at 7 o'clock a.m. tomorrow morning, Bermuda time. And I received immediately after receiving, well, actually, before I received my notification that the disciplinary committee had found no wrongdoing, I received an email of your registration for the Congress has been accepted. And because first it was accepted, then it got declined.
Yeah.
Now it got accepted again. It's a web portal that allows us access to the Congress. So I saw that and I said, okay, I haven't received any other formal paperwork, but for them to open up this portal again to me, I knew that the formal paperwork was coming. So yes, it does allow us to vote in tomorrow's Congress. Immediately, I got inundated with calls from different persons. Ultimately, I did get a personal call from one of the presidents running, and that is the person that I'm gonna lend my support to. And yeah, we know, or I'm the new to the game, but the rest of the Caribbean presidents assure me that the last two presidents were voted in on the strength of the Caribbean region's vote. So we feel we have a strong candidate in the running.
Yeah. I since all this came up, I've been looking at the AIBA, is that right?
AIBA, yes.
AIBA website, following things daily. Just today, someone else dropped out yesterday. The Dominican guy dropped out. So it
Yes.
it it, it seems to be right now a little bit in disarray. Is it like that because of the language barrier? And I say the language barrier because you have that English speaking and you have the non-English speaking, and that's the problem
Hmm.
we all experience in the Caribbean
Wow.
when we're pitted, kind of together but against each other.
Yes. So definitely within our region, I would say the internal politics follows the language barrier. The I saw it most directly for myself when I went to Panama for the for EGM, and I just met some of the players. I met one of we call her the queen of boxing of the Caribbean from Barbados, and she's been doing this for 50 years. Um, because I sat on one side and I just had met her, she said, "Oh, Nathan, you're over there. I'll come sit over there with you." I watched every single member of the Caribbean, English speaking Caribbean, come sit over on the left.
Right.
And then I watched all of the Spanish speaking countries sit on the right. So
Mhm.
there is a clear division within our Americas region. And but nevertheless, boxing throughout the world is it's from the fact that it was almost like a presidential election. You had so many candidates putting their name in the hat and then dropping out, and the amount of propaganda that we were sent. We just got an email today to say that some allegations made in international media against one of
Yes.
the candidates is actually false. It was
False.
propaganda. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it's like, wow, this thing is really heating up.
Well, the thing is, well, apparently an email was sent to to most of the Federation. I don't know if you got it, but
Yes,
they
definitely.
claimed it was false documentation. And so this
Yes.
is kind of really getting to a point where hurry up and let's get this over
let's
done with.
let's let's move on. Let's move on. One of the emails I got was that the former president is actually one of the creditors to IE. So it's so much information and disinformation, and I honestly, even in my capacity, I haven't had the chance to like filter out every single piece of information I got and fact check it. I'm just saying, okay, we have our candidate. We're gonna support him to the end, and let's just move on and ignore everything else that's come with it. I'll fact check my candidate. I'll make sure that he's clean. I'll make sure that he's genuine about his commitment to our region.
Mhm.
Um, and everybody else, so the two major issues for any president taking over for international boxing right now is one, the financial situation of AIBA, because obviously without funds and with massive debt, there's no reinvestment into programs. And the second is good governance. Those are the main issues, and those are the big issues. So whatever candidate comes and is successful, he has to effectively deal with those two issues. Um, the IOC is definitely looking closely at this election, and AIBA is really just fighting for its life because, um, you know, I want the organization to be successful, but ultimately, I have said that, you know what, I have no personal investment in it. If it fails and crumbles, and another organization picks up the pieces, I have no loyalties. My loyalty is to boxing and not to AIBA. And if another organization takes up the helm and says we're going to correct and they get massive international support, I'm telling you, I will support that organization because it's a lot of mess that AIBA has created for itself. It's
Mhm.
not a victim of the circumstances of COVID. It's not a victim of the world economic crisis. It's a victim of its own arrogance, and it's a victim of its own mismanagement. And really, your mama tells you if you don't listen, you feel. So,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah. Just hearing you talking about the finances of AIBA, for the layman, me being on the outside looking in, but you hear a title fight is gaining $100 million. So how is the federation that kind of rubber stamps a fight not getting its share of kind of the purse of sorts?
Yeah. So for the layman, we all of us know that boxing, you have professional boxing and you
Mhm,
have amateur boxing, and it's forever been that way. It's amateur
mhm,
and professional, and the two shall not mix. Yes, they're the same. So a lot of this started with former president CK Wu, who said no, in every other sport, professional and amateur, there's no line between them, and we in boxing had a very clear line between the two. And most laymen know that the professional boxing, the Mayweathers, the Tyson, these guys make millions of dollars.
mhm, mhm,
And AIBA recognized that there was a gap between it, which we knew existed, but we thought that the skills gap, we're talking about the actual skills of the fighter, we thought that there was no gap until we saw many Olympic boxers transition into professional boxing and their career just flatlined. Very
mhm.
few. I mean, yes, Mayweather was one. Lomachenko is another, and there's a few others that are noteworthy. But when you look at the number of Olympic level amateur boxers, um, one second. Mom, I'm on a call. Sorry about that.
No
I'm
problem. No
been
problem.
so when you look at the number of boxers that go into the professional realms, it's a 1% success rate for them to actually make that mega dollars. So under former President CK Wu, he decided to create this WSB World Series of Boxing and other programs that would basically, we knew we had amateur boxing. Aiba has the pool of talent. We know
Mm,
we have it. So he wanted to use the pool of talent that he has to rival that WBA, WBO,
mhm,
IB, F, rival those organizations and essentially take a holistic control of boxing. The idea is, I think it's with merit. I
mhm,
think it was ambitious, um, but ultimately trying to close that gap in the time frame that he envisioned and in the manner that he envisioned, it caused a lot of debt and financial mismanagement for AIBA. It caused the controversy because that's when they done the study to remove the headgear
mhm.
because professionals don't wear headgear.
Right,
That
right.
was the difference between amateur and professional.
Mhm,
So to blur those lines, they done a study. They proved that it actually the only thing that the headgear does is protect from cuts, scrapes, and little bruises. It doesn't protect from concussions, which is the main damage that boxers take through the sport. Um, so the idea was noble, but the end result was a disaster.
mhm. So with the concept of coming together, you have an election and all, where do you see, because I've noted throughout the last maybe 10 years, you have a strong contingent of Caribbean boxing going on, island hops, like month be in
Hmm.
Jamaica, another month be in Barbados. I know for us, it's always down to dollars and cents
Yes.
to try and get involved in something like that. But could we see some collaboration of possibly getting some amateur fights, or sending guys to amateur fights throughout the Caribbean?
Absolutely, absolutely. And throughout all of this, so I have been the Boxing Federation president for 5 years now. It doesn't seem that long, but for 5 years now. I've only been active on the international scene for maybe a year, 2 years at the most. Um, Nevertheless, in the last year, our relationships, whereas I could not call the name of one Caribbean president 2 years ago, I can call all of their names. I have their numbers. We're communicating. I just got sent a document, a proposal, because we were supposed to have a Caribbean championship that we was going to send our Adrian Roach and Levince Toto to, our new national team boxers to.
Mhm.
But of course, COVID shut that down. Um, so I just got in my hands a proposal to move that event to North Carolina. Um, so the region is active. Um, I'm in the group chats with them. They discuss these island hops, and they do it all the time.
Yes.
I mean, I can't remember which country. It's a shame. I mean, I'm a history teacher, not so much a geography teacher, but I think U.S. Virgin Islands said, one country is 45 minutes away from one end and another country is 45 minutes away
Right.
from the other end. These
Yes.
guys do this all the time. They do country hops like we would do gym hops.
Right.
Literally every 2 3 weeks they're in another country
Mhm.
fighting against another nation. Nevertheless, to answer your question, yes, we plan to do that. Our national coach, Mannix, his thing, everybody who knows him, is Cuba. I mean,
Yeah.
him and Charles Wade, they go to Cuba like it's their second home.
Right.
And
Right.
so the initial plan, and of course, for the viewers who know, Cuba is a boxing powerhouse.
Yes.
They cultural, uh the boxing is just ingrained in their dance and their culture.
Hmm.
So we had planned to use Cuba as really a base of operations for Bermuda boxing. But again, COVID happened and they closed the borders. Getting there is impossible. Staying there is impossible. Getting out is impossible because when the COVID hit, I think Trinidad or another country got trapped down
Crap.
there,
Yeah. Yes.
literally for 3 months. Literally
Hmm.
had to go to the highest levels and get the U.S. and Canadian State Departments involved in order
Yeah.
to
They had
fly them.
footballers. They had all sorts of people trapped there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, ultimately, even though culturally, of course, we're connected to the Caribbean, um, we're most connected to Canada, and that's where Adrian Roach is going to go to school at. So the event that we were supposed to have tomorrow that we canceled was initiated because we were going to have Adrian's Canadian boxing team, the school, the varsity boxing team of Crandall University that Adrian Roach is going to be attending in the fall. They will come in here tomorrow to have a fight, to kind of introduce themselves to us, introduce themselves to Adrian, and kind of act as a handover because
Hmm.
they are excited that they now have an Olympic they now have an Olympic level fighter who's actually going to the Olympic qualifiers. Even though the school has a number of national athletes as
Hmm.
part of their varsity boxing program, they don't have anyone who's actually able to go to the Olympics until we sent them Adrian.
Right.
So we're gonna be closely working, and we've always closely worked with Canada, just because that's where a lot of our connections were.
Yeah.
Whereas the teachers rugby expats, they were connected to Canada. We've always
Hmm.
bought in boxes from Canada. We got good relationships with Atlas GM and Grant's Rival GM and some of these other GMs in Canada. So we're going to use Canada strongly and heavily, and they are willing to be a part of that process for us as well.
Yeah. What dates have they already pushed aside for the Olympic qualifiers for the region?
It's still at this point saying February to March. I have
Mhm.
received no further information about that. So we anticipate getting more information as it becomes available, but I'm just banking on the fact that it it will happen. We know it's Argentina. We know the time frame, but I'm not sure of why they haven't announced, hey guys, this is where you're going. I'm sorry, I'm just plugging in my phone. I'm so
Okay, all
sorry.
right.
Yeah, they haven't done the task of saying this is where you're going, this is when, and just sort out the details of that event. So
Mm.
we're looking out daily for that information, and I'm going to be reaching out to them directly as well to make sure I get that information so that we're not missing any deadlines like the please submit your names by this date.
Right.
But as soon as we know, but we do plan to send our athletes to Canada. Levince and Adrian are going to go to Canada to do a training camp end of January because we know that in February they need to be in top form. And really, it's such an investment. But we know either way, it's going to be such a great experience for them because you learn. You're only as good as your last fight.
Yes. Yes.
And Adrian has the opportunity to actually go right into the qualifier, whereas Andre and Tyler went to the CAC as you were
Yes.
there. They went to the not Pan Ams, but they went to the CAC qualifier. They went to the CAC, so they never actually saw what a qualifier looks
Right.
like.
Right.
Adrian is going to have such an experience because he's going to see the qualifier. He's 18, and then when he's 22, when he has another shot at the Olympics again, he's still such a young age for boxing at
Hmm.
22. He's going to be like, wow, I know him. I know him. I fought him. I've
Right.
had this experience before.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, I know you have so many other things in the works for Bermuda boxing, but we're going to save that for another time because I know we really want to see how tomorrow materializes. Again, congratulations to the Bermuda Boxing Federation for getting that matter sorted out, having your name having a country name mixed up in something that through no fault of yours. I think that now that it's been cleared, I think now we can all move forward and feel comfortable come tomorrow's
Yes.
Congress. All right,
Yes.
all
And
right.
I thank you for your support as always, Al. Definitely anytime I'll be glad to talk because there's a lot going on that people don't see about
Yes,
Bermuda boxing. So
yes.
thank you for your attention to us.
No problem. We'll be in touch. We'll be in touch after the Congress, probably on Tuesday sometime, just to see how it all went. And then,
Sure.
of course, we can then share some other information that Bermuda Boxing has on the tip of your tongue. All right?
Great. Thank
Have
you
a
so
great day.
much.
All
You
right.
as well. Okay.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Bye.